we're dreaming of reaching our first 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe and be the first to discover new stories every day. I was searing a ribeye on the cast iron skillet, the kitchen filling with the sharp tang of rosemary and a faint haze of smoke. My hands moved on autopilot, flipping the steak, adjusting the flame. Lauren stood a few feet away, leaning against the counter, her face lit by the glow of her phone as she scrolled through Instagram. Her thumb flicked rhythmically, her expression blank, like she was skimming a grocery list. The sizzle of the meat was the only sound between us. Without thinking, I reached out to wrap an arm around her waist, a reflex from years of standing side by side in this kitchen. No romance, no agenda, just muscle memory. She stiffened and stepped away, not even looking up from her screen. "Hugs aren't mandatory, Jake," she said, her voice flat, like she was reading a policy manual. "You've got to earn them." No smirk, no glance, no warmth. Just a statement, cold and final, like a cashier saying your card's declined. My hand froze midair, then dropped. My pulse ticked up, a faint thump in my temples. I turned back to the stove, grabbed a dish towel, and wiped my hands slowly, feeling the rough cotton against my palms. The steak hissed, but my focus was on her words, looping in my head. "Earn them." I set the towel down, walked over, and stood close enough to see the faint reflection of her phone in her eyes. "Noted," I said, my voice steady, clipped. No drama, no argument, just a data point logged. I went back to the stove, flipped the steak, and let the silence sit. The next evening, I was back at the stove, grilling chicken this time. The kitchen smelled of garlic and thyme, the fan humming overhead. Lauren breezed in, her hair tossed from a long day at her marketing job, her phone already in hand. She dropped her bag on the counter with a thud and leaned against the fridge. "Hey," she said, her tone light, but with that edge I'd started to notice. "So, I was at the office today, and everyone's got new sneakers. Like, nice ones. Nike, Adidas, you name it. Mine are trashed, soles are practically peeling off." She paused, scrolling her phone, then glanced at me. "You think you could grab me a pair? Maybe those white Air Max ones? They're, like, $200. My grip tightened on the spatula, the metal cool against my palm. I kept my eyes on the chicken, watching the edges crisp. My jaw clenched, then relaxed. I didn't turn around. "Nah," I said, my voice even, almost casual. "I'm not obligated to buy you shoes, Lauren. You've got to earn that." I let the words hang, mirroring her tone from last night, precise and detached. The air shifted. I could feel her staring, the weight of her gaze like a spotlight. Her phone clicked off, and she let out a sharp laugh, high and brittle. "Are you serious right now?" she said, her voice climbing. "What's with the attitude? You've bought me stuff before, clothes, bags, whatever. Now it's a problem? What, you're keeping score or something?" She stepped closer, her sneakers scuffing the tile. I turned off the burner, the flame dying with a soft pop. I faced her, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. My eyes locked on hers, wide, flashing with indignation. "Attention's not a default setting, Lauren," I said, low, deliberate. "It's a privilege. Works both ways." My heart was steady, but my fingers twitched slightly, itching to gesture, to underline the point. I kept them still. Her face twisted, lips parting like she'd been slapped. "Oh, please," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Don't give me that high and mighty crap. You're acting like some petty jerk because I didn't want a hug. Grow up, Jake." She tossed her hair, her hands flying to her hips. "You're making this a thing when it's nothing. I'm asking for sneakers, not a kidney." I tilted my head, a faint smirk tugging at my mouth. "And I'm saying no," I replied, calm, almost amused. "Not because I can't afford it. Because I don't feel like playing fetch for someone who thinks my affection's on a punch card." I held her gaze, watching her pupils flicker, searching for a comeback. She froze, her mouth half open. Then her eyes narrowed, and she let out a huff. "You're unbelievable," she muttered, grabbing her bag. "I'm not dealing with this." She stormed out, her footsteps echoing down the hall. I turned back to the stove, plated the chicken, and ate alone at the table. My fork scraped the plate, the sound sharp in the quiet. My chest felt tight, but not with anger, more like the clarity of a decision forming. A few days later, I was at the gym, sweat dripping down my back as I racked the barbell. My buddy Matt, a wiry guy with a day job in IT, was spotting me. We'd known each other since college, The kind of friend who doesn't need to fill silences. I told him about the kitchen standoffs, keeping it light, but he caught the undercurrent. He leaned against the bench, wiping his face with a towel. "Man, she's testing you," he said, his voice low, serious. "Lauren's always been high maintenance, but this? She's seeing how far she can push before you fold. Don't fold, Jake. You give in, she'll keep raising the stakes." I nodded, my breath still heavy from the set. My shoulders ached, but his words hit harder. "Yeah," I said, grabbing my water bottle. "I'm not folding. She wants to play games, I'll play better." Matt clapped my shoulder, a quick, firm grip. "Good," he said. "You're worth more than her scoreboard." His words stuck with me, a quiet anchor as I drove home, the radio off, my mind turning over the past week. That night, Lauren was in full performance mode. She pranced around the living room in a short silk robe, her hair loose, humming to some pop song blasting from her phone. She laughed loudly at a TikTok, her voice carrying like she was on stage. "Oh my God, this is hilarious," she called out, glancing at me as I sat on the couch, scrolling through emails on my laptop. I didn't look up. My fingers tapped the keys, steady, ignoring her show. She kept it up, dancing past me, her robe swishing. "You know," she said, her voice bright but pointed, "I told my friend Sarah about work today, and she was like, 'Girl, you're killing it. Life's too short for stress, right?'" She paused, waiting for a reaction. I closed my laptop, set it on the coffee table, and leaned back, my arms spread across the couch. My eyes flicked to her, bored, like I was watching a rerun. "Sounds like Sarah's got it all figured out," I said, my tone dry. "Maybe you two can swap notes on living stress-free." I held her gaze, my face blank. Her smile faltered, just for a second, before she forced it back. "Whatever," she said, waving a hand. "You're in a mood. I'm just trying to have fun." She turned up the music, swaying her hips, but the act felt hollow, like a commercial with bad lighting. I stood, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she called, her voice sharp. "Out," I said, not turning around. My hand was on the knob, my pulse steady. "Don't wait up." I stepped into the cool night air, the door clicking shut behind me. My chest loosened, like I'd shed a weight I hadn't noticed I was carrying. The next morning, I woke to a notification on my phone. Lauren had posted a story on Instagram. A selfie at a trendy cafe, her smiling next to a guy in a blazer, captioned, "Real men get it without being told." My stomach tightened, a quick twist of adrenaline. I screenshot it, my thumb steady, and set the phone down. My breath was even, but my jaw was tight, the muscles flexing as I ground my teeth. I didn't text her, didn't call. I got up, made coffee, and went about my day. Work, emails, a quick run. Routine kept me grounded, a framework to hold the anger simmering under my skin. When I got home, Lauren was in the kitchen, stirring cream into her coffee. She glanced up, her eyes flicking over me, testing the waters. "Morning," she said, her voice light, like nothing had happened. "You want some coffee?" I leaned against the doorway, my arms crossed, my eyes locked on hers. "Nah," I said, my voice cool, measured. "I'll stick to brewing my own. Less chance of it coming with a side of shade." I tilted my head, letting the words land. Her spoon paused mid-stir, her lips parting. "What's that supposed to mean?" she said, her voice rising, defensive. She set the spoon down, her hands going to her hips. I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshot, and held it up. "This," I said, my tone flat. "You want to play cryptic games on social media? Go for it. But don't expect me to chase you for an explanation. Ask your cafe buddy if he's got coffee." I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my movements slow, deliberate. My heart was pounding, but my face stayed calm, a mask I perfected over weeks of this dance. Her face flushed, a deep pink creeping up her neck. "Oh my God, Jake," she snapped, stepping toward me. "It was a joke. A dumb post. You're blowing this way out of proportion. That guy's just a coworker. You're acting like I'm sneaking around or something." Her voice cracked, her hands gesturing wildly. I raised an eyebrow, my lips twitching into a faint smirk. "I don't care who he is," I said, my voice low, cutting through her tirade. "I care that you think posting that crap's gonna get a rise out of me. Spoiler, it won't. You want attention? Earn it. Without the props." I turned, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. My shoulders were tense, but my steps were even, each one a choice to walk away from her script. She followed me, her voice shrill. "You're such a jerk," she shouted. "You're turning this into some big deal when it's nothing. You're acting like I owe you something." I paused at the door, my hand on the knob, and looked back. Her eyes were wide, her chest heaving, her hair falling into her face. "You don't owe me," I said, my voice quiet, cold. "But I don't owe you either. Figure out what you're playing at, Lauren. I'm not your audience." I stepped outside, the door shutting with a soft click. My breath fogged in the morning air, my pulse slowing as I walked to my car. I didn't look back. That evening, I met Matt at a diner, the kind with sticky tables and bottomless coffee. We sat in a booth by the window, the neon sign buzzing outside. I laid out the latest, Lauren's post, her tantrum, the way she kept doubling down. Matt listened, his fingers tapping the edge of his mug. "She's flailing," he said, his voice firm. "She knows she's losing control, so she's throwing everything at you. Guilt, drama, that Instagram stunt. You're doing the right thing, man. Stay steady. She'll either back off or burn herself out." I nodded, my elbows on the table, my hands clasped. My knuckles were white, the pressure grounding me. "I'm done playing defense," I said, my voice low. "She wants a fight. I'll give her one. But on my terms." Matt grinned, a quick flash of teeth. "That's my boy," he said, raising his mug. "Here's to not taking crap." We clinked mugs, the ceramic clunk loud in the quiet diner. My chest felt lighter, like I'd finally exhaled. When I got home, Lauren was on the couch, her phone in hand, her legs tucked under her. She looked up, her eyes wary but defiant. "We need to talk," she said, her voice tight, like she'd rehearsed it. She set her phone down, her movements deliberate. I dropped my keys on the counter, my boots loud on the hardwood. "Sure," I said, leaning against the wall, my arms crossed. "You start." My tone was neutral, but my eyes were locked on hers, unyielding. My pulse was steady, but my stomach churned, a faint twist of anticipation. She sat up straighter, her hands clasped in her lap. "I don't like how you've been acting," she said, her voice clipped, authoritative. "You're distant, you're snappy, you're making everything a fight. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. I just want us to be normal again." She paused, her eyes searching mine, waiting for me to soften. I tilted my head, my lips curling into a faint smile. "Normal," I repeated, my voice slow, deliberate. "You mean me jumping when you snap your fingers? Buying you sneakers, playing along with your little tests? That normal?" I stepped closer, my hands in my pockets, my posture relaxed, but my gaze sharp. "Nah, Lauren. That deal's expired." Her eyes widened, her mouth opening, then closing. "That's not fair," she said, her voice rising shaky. "I'm not testing you. I'm just living my life, and you're twisting everything into some big conspiracy. You're making me the bad guy when I've done nothing wrong." Her hands flew up, gesturing, her voice cracking. I chuckled, a low, dry sound. My chest vibrated with it, the tension easing for a moment. "Nothing wrong," I said, my voice light but edged. "You tell me I need to earn a hug, then demand new shoes like I'm your personal ATM. You post cryptic crap online to poke at me, then cry foul when I call it out. You're not the bad guy, Lauren, you're just sloppy." I leaned forward, my eyes narrowing. "If you're gonna play games, at least be good at it." Her face went red, her breath hitching. "You're such an asshole," she spat, standing up, her hands balled into fists. "You think you're so smart, throwing my words back at me, acting like you're above it all. You're just petty, Jake. Petty and selfish." She stepped closer, her voice trembling with rage. "I deserve better than this." I didn't flinch. My heart was racing, but my face was calm, my eyes steady. "You deserve what you give," I said, my voice low, final. "You want better? Start with a mirror." I turned, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. Her shouts followed me, muffled by the door, but I didn't stop. My hands shook as I started the car, adrenaline buzzing in my veins. But beneath it, there was a quiet certainty, a line drawn in the sand. The next day, I called a friend, Tom, who worked in real estate law. We met at his office, a small space cluttered with files and coffee cups. I laid out the situation, not the fights, just the facts, the house, the cars, our finances. Tom listened, his pen tapping the desk. "You're smart to think ahead," he said, his voice calm, professional. "If things go south, you need to protect what's yours. The house is in your name, right?" I nodded, my jaw tight. Good, he said. Let's get some papers ready, just in case. Doesn't mean you have to use them. An hour later, I signed a preliminary agreement, my pen steady, the ink dark against the page. My chest felt hollow, but not with regret, with resolve. I paid Tom, thanked him, and drove home. My hands gripped the wheel, my knuckles pale, but my mind was clear. I didn't tell Lauren. Didn't need to. The papers were insurance, a quiet move in a game she didn't know we were playing. That evening, I came home to a different Lauren. She was in the kitchen, humming softly, chopping vegetables for a salad. The counter was set with plates, a pitcher of lemonade sweating gently. She looked up as I walked in, her smile bright, almost too perfect, like a photo filter applied to real life. Hey, babe, she said, her voice warm, syrupy. Thought we could have a chill night. Made dinner, your favorite, grilled chicken and that Caesar dressing you like. She tilted her head, her eyes soft, inviting, as she slid a cutting board toward me. Want to help with the tomatoes? My pulse quickened, a faint tick in my neck, but my face stayed neutral. I leaned against the doorway, my arms crossed, my boots planted on the tile. Her sweetness felt like a trap, a sudden shift after weeks of barbs and games. My chest tightened, not with hope, but with clarity. Too late, I thought, the words heavy in my mind. I saw her performance for what it was, a last-ditch effort to reset the board, to pull me back into her script. My jaw flexed, but I didn't speak. My eyes flicked to the knife in her hand, then back to her face, her smile unwavering but brittle at the edges. Sure smells good, I said, my voice flat, noncommittal. I didn't move, didn't step into her stage. My hands stayed in my pockets, my posture relaxed but unyielding. Her smile flickered, just for a second, before she turned back to the counter, her knife slicing through a cucumber with a sharp thwack. Cool, she said, her voice still light, but with a faint strain now. I just figured we could use a break, you know? No fighting, just us. She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes searching mine, waiting for me to bite. I held her gaze, my face blank, my heart steady. My fingers twitched in my pockets, but I kept them still. Too late, I thought again, the words a quiet verdict. I nodded once, a small, curt movement, and turned toward the living room. Gonna check some emails, I said, my tone even, dismissing her act without a word about it. My boots echoed on the hardwood, each step a choice to stay outside her game. Her knife paused, the kitchen falling silent behind me, but I didn't look back. My chest felt lighter, like I'd dodged a hook I hadn't seen coming. I sat on the couch, opened my laptop, and let the hum of the screen fill the space. She didn't follow, didn't call out. The silence was hers to sit in. 2 days later, I came home to find Lauren at the kitchen table, her phone in front of her. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, fixed on the screen. She looked up as I walked in, her lips trembling. You did this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She held up her phone, showing a notification from her bank. I'd moved half our joint savings to a separate account, a step Tom had suggested. Nothing illegal, just prudent. I set my keys down, my movements slow, deliberate. My pulse was steady, but my throat was dry, the air thick with her panic. Yeah, I said, my voice calm even. I did. I leaned against the counter, my arms crossed, my eyes locked on hers. She stood, her chair scraping the floor. You're serious? She shouted, her voice breaking. You're pulling this crap without even talking to me? You think you can just, punish me? You're not gonna come out of this looking good, Jake. I'll take everything. Cars, money, whatever I can get. She stepped closer, her eyes blazing, her hands shaking. I didn't move. My lips twitched, a faint smirk forming. Go for it, I said, my voice low, almost amused. Take the cars. Take the cash. But the house? That's mine. And no amount of tantrums is gonna change that. I tilted my head, my eyes narrowing. You wanted to play, Lauren. This is what it looks like when I play back. Her breath caught, her eyes darting, searching for a weak point. She found none. You're a bastard, she whispered, her voice thick with tears. You're throwing away everything we had over nothing. I shook my head, my smirk fading. Not nothing, I said, my voice quiet, final. You threw it away when you decided respect was optional. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I turned, grabbed a glass of water, and walked out of the kitchen. My heart was pounding, my hands steady but cold. Her sobs followed me, but they didn't pull me back. I was done. 6 months later, I was grilling steaks in my backyard, the house quiet except for the crackle of the fire. The air smelled of charcoal and summer grass, the forest beyond my fence dark and still. Matt was over, a soda in his hand, his laugh loud as he recounted a work story. The table was set for two, no extra plates, no lingering tension. My shoulders were loose, my breath easy. The house felt like mine again, clean, orderly mine. Lauren had taken the cars, half the savings, and some furniture. I didn't fight it. Didn't need to. The house was paid off, my name on the deed, my sanctuary intact. She'd moved to an apartment downtown, her Instagram full of forced smiles and vague quotes about new beginnings. I didn't follow her, didn't check, didn't care. One afternoon, I ran into her at a coffee shop, a chance encounter that felt scripted. She was at the counter, ordering a latte, her hair shorter, her face tired. She saw me, froze, then forced a smile. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, uncertain. "Been a while." I nodded, my hands in my pockets, my stance relaxed. "Yeah," I said, my voice neutral. My pulse was steady, no spike, no twist in my gut. She shifted, her fingers twisting the strap of her bag. I've been thinking," she said, her eyes flicking to the floor, then back to me. "I messed up, Jake. I didn't realize. I took you for granted. I'm sorry." Her voice cracked, her eyes glistening, but I felt nothing, just a faint curiosity, like watching a stranger. I tilted my head, my lips curling into a faint smile. "Appreciate the apology," I said, my voice calm, final. "But I'm good. Moved on. You should too." I stepped past her, ordered my coffee, and walked out. My steps were even, my breath steady. Her eyes followed me, but I didn't look back. That night, I sat on my porch, the stars sharp above the trees. My soda was cold, the glass sweating in my hand. My chest felt open, light, like I'd finally exhaled a breath I'd held too long. I wasn't angry, wasn't bitter, just free. Free to wake up without demands, without games, without proving my worth.